Warning, buy TwoSun knives at your own risk. Side effects of buying a TwoSun knife are buying another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. You have been warned. What is going on? Thanks for joining me today. My name is Brent. This is my channel, Backpack B. I'm really pumped to get into what we're talking about today, which is TwoSun knives as a brand. In my opinion, TwoSun is one of the most underrated brands in the knife game right now, and I want to talk about why. And I wish I was kidding about TwoSun being an addicting knife to collect, but I'm not. Because when I started this review, I got one knife for the review purposes, and now I have 6 a couple weeks later. So that escalated quickly. But there's a definite reason for this. In my opinion, TwoSun makes some of the highest value folding knives on the market. They are setting the bar for quality budget folders with interesting designs and quality materials. A majority of TwoSun knives come with intricately milled TC4 titanium scales, high quality hardware, and D2 steel. Lately, we are seeing TwoSun branch out to other quality materials such as carbon fiber and higher grade steel such as S90V and M390. While a lack of distribution from a majority of the knife retailers this side of the globe makes buying a TwoSun knife a little difficult, I definitely still recommend you pick one up for yourself. Over the past couple years, we have seen amazing new budget pocket knives from overseas companies such as Bestech, Tangram, and Civivi, but TwoSun has really made a name for themselves. I really think they're setting the bar for knives that you can acquire for under $100. But don't take my word for it. Today we are going to take a closer look at the 6 TwoSun knives I recently acquired and added to my EDC rotation. Alright, that's enough talk. Let's dive in and take a closer look. Before we get to the pros, cons, and conclusions, let's do a quick walkthrough of each knife. Starting with the TS08, a night morning design. You can already see the advanced milling in the titanium handle scales. Moving along to the spine, we can see a titanium backspacer with a large jimping pattern. The lock side greets us with a titanium milled pocket clip and a frame lock with a steel lock bar insert. Let's check out the centering. That, sir, is a strike right down the middle. Onto the all-important thwack, and it's nice, it's got a nice action. The detent isn't too soft or strong. Let's check the lockup. What's that, like 35-40% on the tang? So it's looking good there as well. Alright, on to the TS21. Take a look at the quality of the pivot hardware. Next, the spine. Here you can see the TS21 is a simple design with no backspacer. Again, on the lock side we have a milled titanium pocket clip, and we can see a lock bar with a steel insert. The centering is again right down the middle. Moving on to the flipper tab in thwack test number 2, and the blade just rockets into the open position. I love the action on this model. Let's check the lockup. Coming in at around 45%, so that's good to go. Next up, the Night Morning Design TS27. I love this design. This model's ergonomics are fantastic. Moving to the spine, you can see a titanium backspacer that I scratched by dropping on the sidewalk. On the lock side of the TS27, we have a titanium milled pocket clip and can see a lock bar with steel insert. I'm sure you are seeing a theme throughout these models by now. The blade centering is again perfect, right down the middle. It has a little weaker detent than the other models, but the action is still great. The blade rockets out. Lockup is at like 40 to 50% of the tang, so it's definitely good to go. Next up, one of my favorite designs from Night Morning, the TS49. An amazing design with a carbon fiber insert between titanium bolsters. The carbon fiber is high quality with no chipping on the edges. Moving along to the spine, again we're greeted with a titanium milled backspacer. Moving to the lock side of the TS49, another titanium milled pocket clip and lock bar with steel insert. I'm a big fan of Night Morning's new Maker's Mark. It's a lot better than his old text-based one. Woo! The action on this is superb. It flies open every time. The detent is dialed in. It's amazing. Let's try that again. Wow, that action is top notch. I'm a huge fan. And the lockup comes in at about 40%, so good to go again. Next up is the Wong Design TS166, one of the most intricate titanium milling patterns in my collection. Check that out. Moving on to the spine, I like the design choice of leaving the titanium backspacer simple to contrast the intricately milled handle scales. Onto the lock side, where you could see a simple titanium milled pocket clip, and again a lock bar with steel insert. Let's check out the centering. That blade is perfectly centered right down the middle. I love the flipper tab on this model. The blade rockets to the open position. This has an amazing action with a stronger detent than the other models, which I personally like. I also love the ergos and the design of this model. Lockup is at about 50 to 55%, which is fine. Last but absolutely not least is the Tepe Designs TS179 Perfecto in S90V steel. I love the milling pattern, the size, the cigar cutter cutout on the scales. Moving on to the spine, we see a long titanium backspacer sitting flush with the handle scales. The lock side reveals an amazingly designed titanium pocket clip and a lock bar with steel insert. Let's check out the centering. And again, no surprise here, right down the middle. The thumb discs are perfectly positioned and the action of this knife is dreamy. I could literally do this all day. The lockup comes in at about like 45 to 50%, so it's good to go. Okay, so that was a quick walkthrough. Now it's time for pros, cons, and conclusions. There are definitely a lot of pros about TwoSun knives, so I'm going to try to condense down to the most important ones. For a knife company that's not really sold in the USA through knife retailers, consistency was a big one for me when I started buying these knives. I got all of my knives through eBay, and they were all shipped immediately from China. The shipping speed was pretty fast. It took about 2 weeks to get to me in New Jersey all the way from China, so that's not too bad. Each knife arrived in perfect condition, wrapped in plastic and covered, and I mean covered in oil. I seriously had zero issues throughout the 6 different shipments. Their product is also extremely consistent. Quality materials, quality design, quality fit and finish, quality everything. The second pro is designer collabs. I love seeing TwoSun collaborating with a variety of designers to make their products stand out. Night Morning, Wong Design, Tepe Design, Jelly Jerry, Vincent Oliver, Mac Chuck, I don't even know how to pronounce that, and there are many more. I'm big into knowing who designed the knife that I'm carrying, who put the work into creating this tool, and TwoSun does a great job highlighting that. Number 3 is ergonomics, and obviously this doesn't apply to all their knives, but there were really 2 that stood out to me that I own that are awesome, and those models are the TS27 and the TS166. It's obvious that a lot of thought and care went into the design of these models, and making the handles feel as comfortable as possible. I remember the first time I handled the TS27, and I was blown away. It just fit into my hand in a way that not many of my other knives have before. There was not a hot spot to be found. Number 4 is the fit and finish, and that's especially at this price point. Every model I received was flawless. The milling of the titanium handles is next level. The carbon fiber they use is quality. Most TwoSun knives run on KVT ceramic ball bearing pivot systems, which are great. The blades come razor sharp and hold an edge well. Some other models, like the TS166, have internal milling to reduce weight, which I love to see at this price point. TwoSun has obviously set themselves apart from the pack by using great materials at a lower price point than other companies. All the hardware used is high quality. The TC4 titanium they use for the handle scales, backspacer, and pocket clips all feel high quality. Their steel choices are great. D2 is obviously their top choice steel to keep costs down, but they are venturing into higher end steels as we speak. The last 2 pros are value and price. These 2 go hand in hand, so let's cover them together. Let's go through the cost of each of the knives, then we'll talk about their value. Again, I got all of these off eBay directly from TwoSun. The TS08 was picked up for $49. The TS21 was picked up for $55. The TS27 was picked up for $66. The TS49 was picked up for $45. The TS166 was picked up for $49, and the TS179 was picked up for $123, but that's in S90V steel. I personally believe that the budget category means anything under $100. I really acquired most of these knives for around $50. The bang for the buck here is literally insane, and the value is through the roof. All the things that we've covered today in terms of design, fit and finish, and materials are insanely quality for the price point. That's what makes collecting them so fun and easy. You don't need to sell your house to get these knives, but you're still going to get a work of art. As TwoSun grows in popularity, I think that their resale value will also grow. Moving on to the cons, there's only like a couple things that stand out to me as potential negatives about buying a TwoSun knife. The first one being availability. Like I said, you have to get these through eBay or an online store that will ship it from China if you want the newest models. I saw that White Mountain Knives had a few of their older models, but not as much variety as eBay. This means you'll need to wait anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to get your shipment from China, so it's up to you if you're willing to wait. It's definitely not as easy as ordering from Blade HQ and getting it at your doorstep a couple days later. The second potential con is customer service, and although I've never had to hit them up for any reason because all of their products they've sent to me have been so good, I could just see it being a pain because, you know, they're in China. If you want to ship something back to them, it's going to take 2 weeks to ship it back. 2 weeks for them to ship you something new, you're just gonna need to have some patience, and I can see that being a con for a lot of people. I'm sure they stand behind their product and are willing to fix anything that goes wrong, but it just has to do with distance and time. The third con is really just a stigma. I personally don't subscribe to the idea that all Chinese products are poor in quality. In fact, I think that companies like TwoSun are proving that China is making products that set the bar for what you can achieve in a budget item. That being said, there's a lot of people in the knife community that refuse to buy or give Chinese knives a chance. I personally think you're missing out if you don't give it a try, but it's up to you. And finally, my conclusion about TwoSun is very short, and if you couldn't tell by now, I'm a huge fan of them. I think they're amazing. The pros greatly outweigh the cons for this brand, and I think you should try one out for yourself. I highly recommend it. Guys, we made it through the first episode of Behind the Edge. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm pumped to do more of these. I'm gonna probably start doing like single knife reviews rather than like overviews of brands. Also coming soon to the next episode of Egghead with Backpack B, I'm officially going to the dark side, leaving my Mac behind for a PC, but not just any PC. In honor of joining the dark side, we're gonna be building a gaming PC that is Kylo Ren themed. It's gonna be awesome. That's all coming to my channel soon, so I hope to see you there. Backpack B out.